We need that backdrop, don't we? We need that backdrop.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Okay,
Yes,
hi
yes.
everybody. So welcome to this Lunch and Learn session on Breathe Easy Homes. So normally it would be Rachel from the LCP development team heading up this session. I'm just going to start myself. So I'm Lisa Gibson. I am a strategy and business development manager for the Health Partnerships team, working on behalf of the health and care system, but hosted by Leeds City Council. So I'm here today with Helen Bewley, Pat Harker and Charlotte Simpson from Care and Repair, and we're here today to share some information about a new service we're running called Breathe Easy Homes, which is a new service for children with respiratory issues who may live in poor quality housing with indoor air quality that exacerbates their condition. So I'm going to talk us through the wider context around health and housing in Leeds, why health and housing, why children's respiratory in particular, and then I'm going to hand over to Helen, Pat and Charlotte to talk in much more interest and detail about what the service does, some of the work they've done so far and some of the case studies and some really powerful stories from children that they've worked with. And then I'll come back at the end just to talk through how do healthcare professionals use the service, how can they refer their clients through. I understand that you guys can add questions in the chat and we'll kind of bring those in as we go along. So I'm just going to share my screen, so bear with me a second. Which is not quite working as to apologies. Okay, can everybody see? Is the PowerPoint working? So I can't see it. That's okay, but if you can see it, that's good. So I'll flip back to that. So, yeah, to say Breathe Easy Homes, children's respiratory and housing pathway. So, okay. So wider health and housing context. So in Leeds, we have a health and wellbeing strategy, of which one of our priorities is improving housing for better health. So that's our priority 7 of our new strategy. And then we've got work happening or 4 different approaches to that. So some of the work we're doing could be around bringing in housing to the 20% of health and care activity that happens within our health and care services. So a really strong example of that is our hospital discharge workers project. So housing officers based in LTHT to support people out of hospital and kind of speed up system flow. There's work that we do to address the wider social and commercial determinants of health in relation to housing. For example, affordable homes, thinking about rent, thinking about those kind of more commercial determinants. There's work that we do in partnership on targeted activity with underserved groups. For example, people who are experiencing homelessness, or it could be the gypsy and traveller community. So health and housing issues that are really specific to a target group. And then we also have work around prevention and ensuring people's homes promote good health and reduce exacerbations of existing conditions. And that's a space that our project is working in that we're going to talk to you about today. It's also just worth noting, as the Year 1 report has just been launched by the Institute of Health Equity, that Leeds is a marmot city, and the work that we're and that reducing health inequity through system change is at the heart of some of the housing work and the wider determinants of health work we're trying to do. I'll just say a bit more about marmot because it's a hot topic at the moment. So just finished the Year 1 action plan. The collective action was around 2 priorities, so housing and health, and also 0 to 5-year-olds, that better start agenda. So this piece of work, the Breathe Easy Homes project, kind of really fits into that sort of segment around bringing together health and housing and improving health inequity in 0 to 5-year-olds. So what's the children's respiratory context? So the Healthy Leeds Plan is the health and care contribution towards delivering the wider health and wellbeing strategy for the city. There are two main goals, one of which is to reduce preventable unplanned care utilisation across health settings through a focus on keeping people well, and in particular the quarter of the population in Leeds who live in the 10% most deprived areas nationally. So there are 5 particular priority areas of work that have been based on where we see the highest rates of non-elective bed days, and where those rates are significantly higher for people who live in our most poor areas of the city, and people are experiencing like the highest levels of health inequality. And we know that respiratory disease amongst children and young people is one of these priority areas. Equally, Core 20, if people are familiar with Core 20 plus 5, those key clinical areas of health and equity, health and equality. Asthma is one of those 5, and addressing the over-reliance on reliever medications and decreasing the number of asthma attacks is one of the core areas of the children's physical health programme being led through the ICB. So I'll just do a little bit about the data. You'll have these slides afterwards to read. But we know that for, as we've said, that for children and young people, respiratory conditions are the main reasons for admissions, non-elective admissions. The rate of non-elective admissions is higher in our most deprived areas, so IMD1, compared to the other 9 altogether, and that children stay in hospital on average. We also know that when combining rates for presenting conditions linked to diseases of the respiratory system, so whether that's asthma, whether that is bronchiolitis, or other conditions, pneumonia, it's also the highest reason for A&E attendances amongst children and young people. So a real clinical push on thinking about reducing the reliance on hospital admissions, reducing that prevalence of children from our most deprived areas. So trying to stop respiratory conditions, and what are the wider determinants, what's that preventative work we can do as a city. Again, just another illustration that we see, the dark blue spike is that children who went through the asthma 48 review. So this was a pilot piece of work to get GPs to review children who had been admitted into hospital with exacerbations of asthma after 48 hours from their stay. A significant proportion of those, as you can see, were from IMD1, so our most deprived areas. This is the asthma care bundle. This is another driver, another lever for why this piece of work is taken off and being supported by the by the ICB and the Health and Housing Steering Group in the city. There's like lots of, this focus on environmental impacts. So the Asthma NHS England Asthma Care Bundle has asked and suggested and recommended that work is done to manage asthma through air quality, air pollution, externally and internally, and that there should be work done between healthcare, health providers and local housing providers to look at housing conditions and make sure that houses do not make children's ill health worse. So that's like really helpful advice that we've chosen to take on board in Leeds. So what have we done about it? Our response is Breathe Easy Homes, and I'm going to hand over to Helen to talk through what we're doing now. So Helen, if you just say next slide for me, I will. Next slide.
Okay, next slide, please. Hi, everyone. My name is Helen Bewley. I'm the Chief Exec of Care and Repair Leeds. We deliver a number of services across the city, and the newest one is Breathe Easy Homes. We started it around about May time, and it's gradually ramped up. And at the moment, we've had around about 30-ish referrals, of which some are complete, but many are still ongoing. We're shortly going to hear from Charlotte. She's going to talk through case studies, and Pat, who's in the bright orange behind me. Pat was also in right at the beginning and helped write the process and the proposal and the ways of working, and Pat will continue to be part of this going forward. So the aim or the outcome, the desired outcome, was to support the increased well-being of children with asthma living in the most 20% deprived areas of Leeds, concentrating on the air quality and the basic condition of their homes. So We work in partnership with Leeds City Council and the ICB, and our funding has come from Leeds City Council. And we address anything that we see inside the home at point when we visit that we think is triggering or will trigger an asthma attack or will worsen existing respiratory conditions. And we see babies from 3 months to children who are just about to leave school. So it's a real broad spectrum. The main issues that we are seeing are cold, damp, mould, lots of condensation, and also allergies that the children have either been diagnosed with or are suspected of suffering, such as dust mites, pets. Hay fever is a big one. Eczema is also another big one. We have an eligibility criteria, which matches our Home Plus criteria. So that is the household income of 30,000 and below and savings of less than 16,000, and it covers children from 0 to 18 who have any respiratory issues. Ideally, we'd like to know that they've been to see their doctors, but we will look at anyone whose child appears to have a problem with the breathing that's not being made, that's been possibly worsened and not made better by where they live. Next slide. So what happens? Once we have a referral, and the referrals can come from various places, at least we'll talk about the referral process after I finish speaking. We will contact the families and we check the eligibility and we find out a little bit more about their situation. It's really important that the referral form is filled in correctly, so we have as much information as possible before we actually contact the parents. We carry out a full assessment of the property. We assess how they're living. We look at all elements, including overcrowding and basically the actual physical condition of the home. So we get a full picture of the situation and what we can do to help. We are able to offer air quality monitors in the home to assess where the problems are. And we are also in the middle of talking with Green Doctor to potentially benefit from another service that they have introduced in a completely separate project, where we can use air quality monitors that are monitored externally, so it doesn't rely on the clients themselves to actually look at the data and remember what the data is telling them. We recommend equipment and any other minor help and repairs and signposting that might be required. And that will depend on whether or not they're Leeds City Council tenants, whether or not they're private, or whether or not they rent from social or private landlords. Everyone receives a solution that addresses their individual needs. However, there's a basic package which most clients will receive, one of which is hypoallergenic bedding. We do talk to them about their lifestyle and how they are using their home, such as avoiding the use of spray air fresheners, avoiding drying clothing on radiators, advising to open windows, that type of thing. So it's all very much focused on what we see when we're actually in the property. We will visit every property, even if it takes weeks and weeks to organise and the actual first visit, because we can't do this without being in the home. Next slide. Okay, so just a little bit more detail on what we can help with. Internal works, as we talked about, provision of air purifiers, dehumidifiers, and HEPA filter vacuum cleaners to help keep the environment cleaner than it is at the point of first seeing the client. As noted, mattresses, bedding, and we have worked with Zarak to provide new beds as well, so that's been really helpful. We're in a position to replace carpets with hard flooring if we identify that the carpets are part of the reason why the child is suffering from the asthma symptoms. We can allocate new washing machines if they aren't able to wash clothes at a high enough temperature to kill dust mites. And we can signpost to other third sector organisations such as Green Doctor At the minute, every home that we're dealing with is being referred to Green Doctor for a fuel voucher, for example. Next slide. Right, so we have 5 case studies, which is really, really helpful because it brings the whole thing to life. We've taken names out and we've taken any identifiers out. We have a summarized case history of what's happened. Charlotte's going to talk us through them. We've cut it down to fit each one on a page, but Charlotte has more information on each one, and then we've got some photographs. We do have at least one with a before and after, but we do have photographs of the condition of the homes when we first see the home, because we do a visit, and we do a complete visit and take photographs of all the rooms that are causing us concern. So can we get the first one, Lisa and Charlotte, if you don't mind?
Hi, so I'm Charlotte. I'm the support worker on Breathe Easy. So yeah, the first case study is Elle. Elle is a 15-year-old female who was referred to us by an asthma nurse specialist due to damp and mould in her Leeds City Council flat. Elle has been in hospital twice in the last 12 months, staying 2 to 3 nights at a time due to her breathing, and has also visited the GP 8 times. She's missed over 10 days of school and will be sitting her GCSEs soon, so obviously mum's quite worried about that. We found severe mould throughout the property, windows being in bad condition, possible asbestos. She shares a room with her sister, and both beds were damp with mould growing on them. And Elle was sleeping on the sofa because her bed was broken, and the youngest child was sleeping with mum and her partner in the master bedroom. And the third box room was being used to store clothes, but mould caused the clothes and furniture to disintegrate. So mum reported these issues to Leeds City Council, who painted some walls and treated them, and a surveyor visited the home in the last 3 months, but no work has commenced. So the equipment we delivered was a hypoallergenic duvet, pillows, mattress protector, a combined dehumidifier and air purifier, drying rack, and a HEPA filter hoover. And we referred the family to Green Doctor for advice and a £100 fuel voucher. And we also referred them to Zarak to get them a new set of bunk beds and a single bed. So now the youngest sleeps in the third room, and Elle has a place to sleep. So yeah, we've reported all the problems to Leeds City Council, who are arranging a visit. So if you go on the next slide. So here you can see the photo. So the top photo is Elle's bed, and obviously you can see the mould on the ceiling. The second photo is in the lounge, and the third photo is in the master bedroom. So next slide. So the next study is Jay. Jay was actually our first referral, probably one of the worst. She's a 10-year-old female who was referred to us by a paediatric respiratory consultant at Leeds Children's Hospital due to asthma and problems with damp and mould in the home. She has allergy to house dust and low to medium breathing issues, and lives in a LCC property with a mum, dad, and 3 siblings. The youngest child has also started wheezing. We found severe damp and mould in this property, including the loft. Jay's bed had to be pushed next to a window coated in mould, as she shared with her sister, and the room was also used to store her dad's dialysis equipment. Mum regularly cleaned the mould and kept windows open, but the quantity of the mould became unmanageable. So the equipment here we gave was an air purifier, dehumidifier, and an airer. And we contacted Leeds City Council, who sent out a surveyor and recommended a new wet room, new window in Jay's room, and to treat the wall in the master bedroom. So at our request, LCC sent out a second surveyor to look at the other problems we'd identified, including the repair of the leaking chimney stack, a new UPVC window in the wet room, new tiles in the shower, to regrout and reseal the basin, and the hole in the wall outside the wet room. LCC are also treating and plastering the wall in the lounge. So we also referred to Green Doctor again for an energy advice visit and a £100 fuel voucher. And Green Doctor came back with some other recommendations, such as a thermostat, because there wasn't great control of the heating, so we fed that back to Leeds City Council. And they also spoke to OVO about any fuel debt the family have. As the 4 children shared 2 rooms, we made a referral to Zarak to get some bunk beds, and this also allowed Jay to be moved away from the window with all the mould. And this cleared space for belongings rather than being stored in the lounge, which was impacting the buildup of dirt and dust as mum couldn't clean properly. So when we followed up on how things were going with like the equipment, she said you can really feel a difference in the room. It just feels nicer to breathe, which is positive. So the next slide. So here you can see these are the before photos. So the top photo is the hole in the wall, the wet room. And then you can see at the right, that's where Jay's bed was. And the photos in the middle is what the window looked like, covered in mould. Obviously not great, her sleeping next to that. And then the bottom left, you can see the wet room, just the whole ceiling covered in mould. Mum would have to move the toothbrushes out because they would just get covered in mould. And then the middle photo is the second bedroom. Again, there was just water dripping down and just, yeah, covered in mould. And then the next slide. So these are the after photos so far. So you can see top left is Jay's window. So that's been replaced and completely repainted. They've got a brand new wet room, so there's no mould in there now. And the right is in the second bedroom, the bunk beds. So that was the wall that was covered in mould, and that's all been treated. And then the bottom photo is in Jay's room, where they've added the 2 bunk beds as well and been able to move her away from that window. So next slide. So the next case study is H. H was referred to us by her GP because of damp and mould in her home. She's 11 years old, uses an inhaler, suffers from food allergy, eczema and hay fever. She lives with her mum in a privately rented 2-bedroom terraced house and often slept with her mum as her room on the top floor would get freezing. We found mould throughout the property, particularly in the bedrooms. This was due to poorly fitted windows, inadequate ventilation and damp due to potential roof damage. The landlord had previously fungi washed and painted the mould in mum's room and qualified for a government grant for extra roof and wall insulation in H's room. Our task was to make the family's accommodation as comfortable as possible until the remedial work had been carried out. So the equipment we delivered was a hypoallergenic duvet and pillows, dehumidifier, air purifier, airer and hoover to help H's breathing. And we also contacted the landlord. So the landlord worked with us really well and agreed to replace the window in mum's room, which has now been completed. And H's room is now a lot warmer with the added insulation, which will be great for winter. We're still chasing the progress on the roof, and we're just hoping to have an update on that soon. And so next slide. So you can see the top left is the beams in H's room on the top floor would get damp, so that's why we're looking into the roof. And then the middle photo is the curtains in mum's room and the window. Obviously, a lot of these families clean the mould off when we're there, so like before we get there, so it can be quite hard to see where the problem is, but especially when we're looking at like the curtains, you can just see how they can't clean it off. So that's just evidence of that one. And then the right is in the hallway and just leading up to H's room, just the ceiling covered in mould again. And then next slide. So the fourth case study, Elle is a 6-year-old male who was referred to us by health visitors due to reported damp in the home. He attended A&E more than 4 times and missed school over 10 times in the last 12 months. He suffers from hay fever, eczema and struggles with bad smells. He'll often wake in the middle of the night struggling to breathe, and mum has to take him outside to help him breathe better. Elle lives with mum and his 3 siblings who are 4, 3 and 1 month old, and the family all sleep in one room due to the damp and mould. Mum reports that Elle's breathing was fine until they moved into the private rented property in February 2023, and Elle's younger brother has recently started with breathing difficulties as well. So we found widespread mould throughout the property caused by damp. The windows were in poor condition and the trickle vents were not functioning correctly. The Velux windows were also damaged with condensation trapped between the panes, and there was severe water ingress and damp in the cellar, which has led to long-term rising damp. Mum has reported the issues to the landlord over 5 months ago but hadn't heard anything. So we gave the family a hypoallergenic duvet, pillows and mattress protector, dehumidifier, air purifier and spare filter, drying rack and a HEPA filter hoover to increase the air quality and reduce the damp in the property. We contacted the landlord, who has since fixed the leak in the cellar, replastered, treated and repainted the walls, resealed the slip tiles and flashings on the roof, eased the hinges on the windows and fixed the trickle vents. When we followed up with mum, she was very happy with all the work that had been done and very grateful for our help. So that one was a really positive one. Next slide. So yeah, this is the before. So you can see just how the damp has peeled the wallpaper off, just damp and mould throughout the property. And on the right, you can see the massive leak in the cellar, which was just left. So that was causing all the damp to kind of rise into the property. Next slide. And then that's the bedroom. You can see that they were all sleeping in one bedroom, which obviously overcrowding isn't going to help with the damp issues within the property. And then next slide. So the final case study is F, who's an 18-month-old child and was referred to us by Green Doctor. Both F and Mum struggle with breathing, wheezing and coughing, and Mum uses steroids. The family live in an LCC property. We found black mould throughout the home on clothes and in KP's Moses basket. Mum threw out F's older brother's bed as it was covered in mould, so now he shares with Mum and they all sleep in one room. Leeds Council surveyors had been out previously and treated and painted the walls in the living room and the bedroom. The gutters, however, were blocked and there was rising damp present. There were a few behavioural factors contributing to F's wheeze and the condition of the home. This included a lot of air fresheners throughout the home in every room, drying clothes on the radiator, and Mum having difficulties in cooperating with Leeds City Council for access. Mum's 3-year-old son is being supported for his behaviour, and Mum was concerned about having workers in the house. So she limited access to a 3-hour window, which obviously wasn't possible for workers to come in and do the work in that time. So we liaised with Leeds City Council and got a taxi arranged from F's nursery to her mum's mum, with the children to allow Leeds City Council to access the property for 3 days. The work was booked in, but Mum had to cancel as both children were ill. So Leeds City Council is still liaising with Mum to get the work done. Up to now, we've provided an air purifier, an extra filter, an airer, and a HEPA filter hoover, and a dehumidifier. We've referred the family to Green Doctor for a £100 fuel voucher, and we also suggested about Zarak, about getting a new bed for F's brother. However, Mum at this time did not want to pursue this, so we left the information with her. And then the next. So there you can just see a little bit of the mould on the window and just behind the toilet. And that's me done.
Lovely. Sorry, Helen, did you want to come in?
I think that's back over to you now. I'm trying to remember what's next.
Yeah, I think it's back over to me. That's right. Thank you so much. So thank you, Helen, for explaining the service, and to Charlotte for bringing it to life with some of those case studies and some of the challenges that you're seeing for the families, and how the work that you're doing is supporting and making a difference to kind of quality of life as well as quality of breathing. So I'm just going to go through now how healthcare professionals can use the service and how they can access for their clients. So some of this is quite new information. So this is a very the plan on the page. This is our pathway. So if you're seeing a child with persistent respiratory issues, for example, asthma or viral wheeze, and if you know they've got housing issues, so we know there's dust mites, it's more than likely it's going to be damp and condensation, as Charlotte has explained through her case studies. Then if you can tick both those boxes for the child, please refer to Breathe Easy Homes, which, as we said, addresses indoor air quality and provides help and support. So financial conditions may apply, but Care and Repair can sort that out and ask the family about their income. You could also, at the same time as referring to the service, signpost on to advice and support available online, either from Shelter or Leeds City Council information and videos around preventing mould in homes. If you kind of come in across a child who has issues with housing, but they don't have that kind of persistent respiratory condition, absolutely make use of all the referral, all the signposting, whether that's keeping your home warm and affordable warmth, whether that's homelessness and risk of homelessness, and like whether that's the damp and mould repair team at Leeds City Council. If you're finding Leeds City Council tenants, if it's a private tenant, we've got a private landlord kind of kicking them into action support group support team, for want of a better word. So there is help and support available if you're meeting clients with housing conditions without that respiratory angle on top as well. So that's a very simple walk through the pathway. So if you are based in primary care, and this is all quite new information, we've just got the referral process onto System 1. So if you use the primary care GP version of System 1, hopefully this graphic on the right hand side is familiar, and you can get onto the referral system via the blue dot via the paediatric referrals A to Z tab. It's the Breathe Easy Homes new little one, kind of about 5th or 6th down on the left hand side. It will also be added to the new health inequalities tab and the asthma housing and asthma templates when they go live. But at the moment, the main form is through the paediatric referrals A to Z. The primary care development team are building a report using relevant read codes to enable healthcare professionals to proactively find children who would benefit from Breathe Easy Home. So kind of basically the many respiratory codings, as well as once they start to come online through the health inequalities tab, if you're able to record when you see families with housing issues and damp. If you don't use System 1, if you're referring from a different organisation, whether that's the 0 to 19 sort of service or a children's centre, or you just don't want to use this system, you can just simply use a Word referral form, fill in a document on just on a Word template and email it through to Care and Repair. That's just a bit more information about the System 1 referral. So once you've got onto the right page, it's the referrals form and then how to find it all. And it should all pre-populate for you as far as possible. Or we can send this information out. And then sending in the referral, it is like a simple Word document where you need to put in some information around the family and the family contact details. If you're doing it through System 1, it should all just pull through. If you're doing it yourself on Word, there is a little sort of only 2 sides, so hopefully not too onerous. But once you've got all the information, it just needs to go to Care and Repair. I think it's always worth saying that although I know nobody likes filling out forms, the more information that you can include, the better and the quicker the process will be, as it's likely if there is information missing, Care and Repair will need to come back to you. And then Care and Repair should acknowledge receipt of referral kind of instantly through an automatic system, so to let you know it's being referred and being received. So this is just a landing page for other housing contacts. For structural housing issues, so down the left-hand side is that housing tenure. So if you see someone who lives in Leeds City Council housing who are experiencing issues with damp and mould, there's a dedicated team to work on that. You can contact other structural concerns. There's like the broader housing inquiries service you can contact. For private rented, there is the private rented housing team, who I mentioned earlier, that can kind of escalate issues with private landlords that aren't responding. If it's Beeston or Hale Hills, there's also the option to go down the selective licensing team route if you're meeting private landlords who are being unresponsive to families contacting for support. Housing associations, at the moment, that's just go to the housing association who owns the property, who are all aware of this project and should have a response line. Owner occupiers, again, all homeowners are responsible for their own properties, but Care and Repair can be used to support private contractors. And if you see a child who have got the respiratory issues and the housing issues, of course, they're eligible. Doesn't matter what tenure they're from. And there's some quite interesting, useful information about damp and mould on the shelter website or on the Leeds City Council videos as well. So again, you'll get this information in the slides that come out afterwards, but just quite a handy kind of signposting around just pure housing issues. And that's us. So thank you so much. If you want more information, there is a really good website webpage on the Care and Repair website that captures everything we've spoken through today, and you can download the referral form from there as well. And just if you want to email, that's the general number for email address for Care and Repair, and they can also pick up any queries. So Abs, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and we'll come back in.
Thank you very much, Lisa, Helen, and Charlotte for that wonderful presentation and at the case study as well. While you were presenting, there has been some few questions that has been popped in the question and answer section. So if you don't mind, we can go through them and see which ones we can answer before the end of the session. And if there is any more question that we couldn't answer at this session, we will send it out to the presenters, and they'll be able to like answer them, and we communicate that afterwards as well. So going through the questions, the first one that came in was about 11 minutes ago. 1 second, let's see if I can scroll all the way down. Okay, so I'm going to bring Helen and Charlotte in as well. So if you find any questions that you think you might be able to answer, so please just jump right on it. Okay, so the first question, I think this is amazing. I see adults in PCN, Woodsley and Hall Park social prescribing. And one of the main issues we have is that they come and explain the issues regarding their children and mold and respiratory issues. My main problem is LCC don't really listen when I ask for them to go and survey etc. Do you have any advice for contacting LCC and getting responses? Also, what is the scope for this project? How long can you support people? etc. I can see it getting really big. And when people know you might overrun with referrals, are you able to provide all this with equipment long term? Such good solution-based project, I think, at the end. So Lisa, would that be you to bring in to answer that?
So I can come in. I'll come in on the first question about the contact. Well, do a bit about adults respiratory and the contact with LCC, and then Helen and Charlotte, if you want to pick up on the kind of the referral rate and the sort of service saturation. So we do. So the information we've given about the damp and mould team, that should be the number for the contact details. So that's gone out. I think. So I work for Leeds City Council. I don't work for housing. I know they're absolutely snowed under with the amount of not complaints, but the amount of kind of requests for repairs they're seeing. So yeah, I can hear your frustrations that you don't feel that you're getting a response. The damp and mould team are staffed by some really great people. There is that dedicated support line. And yeah, as I say, just keep trying. So I can make sure you've got those contact details. So in terms of that kind of wider connection between asthma, adult respiratory, this is a children's project, and I think it's gone in and it's been very much levered in by the Tradic Jeff of AWAB over in Rochdale. We are looking at doing some research, a piece of research around the impact of asthma on poor housing on adult respiratory issues, and the housing will be involved in that. And I think that will hopefully bring about like a particular focus and more of a will to take this forward with housing and adults as well. But that's at really, really early stages. So so at the moment, I think I'd just make sure you're using the damp and mould line and that hotline and working with those team. I don't know, Helen and Charlotte. So you've probably had more contact sort of day to day with our damp and mould team to kind of get that work moving, haven't you? And you've probably got some reflections.
Oh, Helen, you're on mute.
Yeah, I think it's taken us a couple of months to find our feet with our contacts, and I'm sure that they won't want us to give a contact email out, otherwise she'll never get anything done. But what I would say is that you persevere, that you take note of every time you contact, and I suppose you just keep at it, because eventually they will answer. But I know that people don't have time to do that. I know that's a struggle if you've got to constantly remember to go back and ask the same questions over and over again. But definitely keep track of it, and maybe in your next contact, let them know how many times you've contacted them and let them know the full situation. The good thing about our contact is that we can be really, really clear about the problems and about the consequences of not dealing with the problem. So that's what I would advise in terms of. Would you add anything to that, Charlotte?
No, I just think, again, just outlining every detail of it, what's wrong, what's going on, every time you've contacted, every time the tenant's contacted, and really just chasing and kind of being a bit of a pest has worked so far. And just going back on, they might say, oh, surveys booked. Okay, well, what time, when has it happened, has it been completed, things like that. Just really kind of honing in on them.
Yeah, Yeah, but it is difficult, and we understand that I mean, we've got Charlotte who is just doing this at the minute, and not everyone's got that luxury. In terms of referral rates and longevity, we're still kind of finding our feet in terms of the longevity, and some are taking longer than others. And in the main, delivering the equipment and identifying the physical interventions is actually quite speedy. And as long as we can contact the client, that's the biggest hurdle. Getting the contact with the client, getting to pick the phone up, and then being in when we visit, that's the second hurdle. Assuming they're ticked, Charlotte can visit them 1 week and then have most of the equipment available the next week and deliver it, and then happy days. Where the time drags on is our interventions with getting things dealt with via Leeds City Council or the landlord. We don't have so many private clients, so we haven't come across that yet in terms of who do we go to if there's a problem that isn't dealt with by a landlord. In the main, I would say a good middle 80% are Leeds City Council clients at the minute. And we do have a good contact for the privately rented houses with the department in Leeds City Council that deal with the selective licensing and just general landlords. So that's the longest bit, and there are still some that are ongoing because there's lots to do in the house, but we are just chipping away at it. So I would say the quickest have probably been 6 weeks, and there are some that started in June and are still ongoing. So we're not going to cut off and say it's been 6 months, so you're on your own. At the minute, we don't have to do that. In terms of if we get overrun, we will have to look at how that looks. At the minute, it's pretty quiet. We had 14 in June, and then we had far less in July and August. Or was it 14 in July, Charlotte? It was
14 in July.
Yeah, 14 in July. Unfortunately, Charlotte is leaving us to move to Australia in a couple of months' time. So we are recruiting. So if anyone fancies coming and doing this job, then please look at our website. So we do have some alternatives in the short term. So we might have to curtail it to so many per week. But at the moment, we are able to cope with the referrals that are coming in. So we'll kind of worry about what happens if we get too many. I'll be talking to Lisa. I'll talk to Colin Moss, who's funded it, and we'll be asking him for more money. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. So I'm just going to go quickly to the next one, which is how do you manage cases where landlords are not supportive or compliant with recommendations?
Do you want to start this, Charlotte, and I'll jump in?
Yeah, so that's the team that you mentioned before, the private team. So we've had a couple where the landlords haven't replied or have ignored our calls. So we've just reported them to that team, and that team's most of the time already aware of it, and they will send a letter out and then take the kind of legal measures after that. But it's just, yeah, trying to give the landlords a chance, because the ones that we have kind of got stuff out of have been really cooperative. But yeah, the ones where they're not supportive, then we report them to that team and they take it from there, really.
Thank you. There was one from Carl as well. It says, I will be interested to know if any evaluation work has been conducted around this support. It feels like the team could be making significant financial savings to the agency system, as well as making a massive difference to families. Great work. So that's like a question. And
do you want to take that, Lisa?
Yeah. So thanks, Carl. Yeah. So because the project at the moment we're doing our evaluation framework, and we are working with the ICB evaluation team to sort of get that into being. So the idea of what we really want to be able to do, hopefully, is use NHS numbers to kind of do some kind of is it the theographs, like track some patient journeys, so to sort of see where the A&E admissions have been and if they've been reduced as a result. So that's one kind of angle of the evaluation. Although we haven't started doing that yet. We're still, I think, trying to get the permissions to use the NHS numbers in that way. And the other thing that we want to do is to work with Care and Repair, who will do like a exit survey where we're going to do kind of some Schwemmwebs type questions about improve, sort of looking at where there's been kind of immediate kind of self-reporting of reduction of A&E emissions, reduction of asthma attacks or respiratory exacerbations, and then also looking at some of those kind of wider benefits around well-being as well. So trying to understand, are the children able to attend school more often? Are they sort of missing fewer school days? And also just the impact on the family. So one of the things we think may be happening is around days lost at work. So if a parent is having to repeatedly take time off work or out of work to take the child to hospital and GP appointments, or just to be around the house to kind of look at repairs and stuff, and sort of parental well-being as well. Obviously, there's a significant amount of stress involved. So lots of things we want to measure and we put back on, but we're at early stages of just kind of putting that into practice. That's the idea.
Thank you, Lisa. There was a comment from Simon. I don't think that's not a question, but it's says, hi, to put the scale of this issue into perspective, we at the Green Doctors make around 4,000 home visits each year across Yorkshire, and approximately 30 to 40% of cases have some type of damp and mold issue. So I think it's just backing the presentation up. From Councillor Jenkins. As a councillor, I'm appalled at the lack of appropriate response from the surveyors. We have access to the people in responsive repairs, and we'll take up issues if problems are referred to us. Drying clothes is problematic with fewer laundrettes in the city. Any thoughts on councillors?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The drying clothes is a really, really common one, and we've seen evidence, even if they won't admit it, we see evidence of drying clothes on radiators, that type of thing. And we'll probably see that more actually in the winter, because this has been a summer launch. So that's why we always give an aera unless they've already got one, and in some cases we give them an aera even when they've got one, so they can have two. And we generally always give them a dehumidifier, and we explain about put them in a room, put them in the bathroom, put the dehumidifier, plug it in outside, but put it in the bathroom, shut the door, and then you'll dry your clothes really safely, and you won't cause condensation elsewhere. So that's about the education. That there've been little bits of feedback about concern about the power that is being used by some of this kit. But in the main, I have a dehumidifier myself, and you don't notice a material difference. However, I'm not counting every pound, so I'm not saying it doesn't cost. What I'm saying is that the cost of not doing it in terms of health, you've got to balance that. So yeah, we're very conscious of giving the right information about the kit that we're using, that we're sending out, so they're using it correctly, and so they know the benefits, so it doesn't end up in a corner not plugged in. We were really concerned about that. So Charlotte puts a lot of time and effort in, don't you, Charlotte, to make sure they understand how it works?
Yeah, we sit and go through it when I deliver it. And also one of the combination air purifier and dehumidifier we usually deliver that when it's a smaller property, because it takes up less space. That has a setting on it to dry clothes, and it will turn itself on every hour, and it will like look at the humidity in the room, and it will get it down to a certain percentage and turn itself off. So that goes on for 6 hours. So that's specifically the drying clothes one. So that one's really good in terms of they can just put it in a room, go, leave the house, and not worry about it being on constantly, because it will turn itself off. And that one is kind of good as well as like a leeway to use that in terms of your clothes will dry quicker. So that one's been really positive, and we've had some good feedback on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a lot of problems with obviously drying. Obviously, a dryer costs a lot of money to run. So
yeah, and also because again, I would say virtually 95% of the properties that we've been in are overcrowded, and you just get condensation problems with overcrowding, no matter what windows you've got. So that for me, the introduction of a dehumidifier into any home that's got damp is probably the cheapest and quickest way of not solving it, but dealing with it.
Thank you. Councillor Jenkins did add afterwards that it's a great service as well, just to make you aware. A question from Tina. It says, where do we find the Word document if we are not on System 1?
Yeah, so I think we've answered that one in the chat, haven't we? Available on the website, and I will send Rachel and Abs the Word document so everyone can have it who's been on this call. But yeah, always available on the Care and Repair website.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look through the ones that have not been answered. If you see any questions that you think you've got an answer to, please just jump in.
I think I answered one about children's centres in the chat, but yeah, so we've worked with key debates in the children's centres, and the 0 to 19 service have been part of the kind of initial kind of rollout team as well. So I think they're referring in, aren't they, Helen and Charlotte?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the one about discussing smoking in the home during our visits. Yeah, that's one of the questions we asked. Does anyone smoke or vape in the property? And every single one of ours have said no. So we haven't had to go down that route of speaking about behavioural problems in that sense. Every single one have said they'll either go outside or they don't do it in the property at all. But it'd be good kind of to look at the avenues if one does say yes.
I mean, the basic thing is that we would advise them not to, but I suppose we can't stop them. Yeah, it's up to them. Yeah. And even asking them to not have so many air fresheners. A lot of them are quite horrified that they shouldn't have an air freshener in every room. So we suggest that they maybe cut them down and certainly don't have them in the bedrooms, and try and avoid having them in the corner where the child sits, for example, if they have it in the living room. So we try and just reduce the behaviour. If it's obvious that they're not going to stop, we try and just find a middle ground.
Mm-hmm.
If we did come across somebody smoking, I think Helen's suggestion of kind of what is the offer and building that in is probably really sensible. So maybe it's just making a connection outside this meeting in case you did come across somebody, and then can offer the support as Helen suggested, like make that link. If that's okay, Helen. So I will certainly make sure that everyone's got a copy of. I'll send Abs and Rachel the slides and everything so everyone can have those. And we've got like kind of we've got various versions of information and leaflets we can send. So we've got lots of comms collateral. We'll happily send out, and please use and share. I think I've also partly responded to the question from Gay about that having to go and chase when it's an adult. I think that there's a new health inequalities tab being put on to System 1, and I think that will have maybe we'll have some referrals in and signposting around LCC repairs. It's not just for children, it's for all ages. But I can certainly understand. Like so, it sort of would make sense that if you emailed that damp and mold hotline, you'd get like an automatic response to say thank you, we've received your information, but it sounds like that's not happening. So we can raise that with the with Rob and Tina and the damp and mold team, if that's helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, so we've got 5 more minutes. If we've missed any questions at all, we're still going to try and look through them and share them with the presenters today for those questions to be answered. If it's not something the OCP can quickly respond and answer. The recording of this session as well is going to be available to everybody. So if you missed maybe the beginning part of the presentation, you'll be able to catch up with it once the link is sent out on YouTube. I'm going to try and bring this session to a close. Thank you so much, Lisa, Helen, Charlotte, for this wonderful presentation. And we look forward to hearing more about this project in future. Hopefully everything goes well. Before I bring this Lunch and Learn session to a close, just to let you know, the next stop for the Local Care Partnership is Learning Forum, which is going to be coming up on the 17th of October at Moortown Baptist Church. We're going to be focusing on winter well-being this time around, because we all know it's winter already. And our main speakers are going to be Leeds Older People's Forum. It's going to be a fantastic opportunity to come together, share knowledge, learn how we can contribute to keeping the community healthy throughout the winter months. So information about the Learning Forum is also going to be sent out. It's already been sent out via Weekly Digest, but we're still going to try and send more information out when we're sending the information of this Lunch and Learn session out. Thank you once again to our presenters, and hope to see you soon. Have a good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.